Hello and welcome to 5-Minute Math. Today we are looking at the Algebra 1 concept of laws of exponents. This is standard A.11B in the great state of Texas, and we are using item number 43, which is a new item type called equation off the Redesign Practice Online STAAR test. If you haven't done so already, please go ahead and take a moment to pause the video, work this problem out on your own, unpause it, and we will look at our answers together. So we have this expression that we're going to need to simplify, and as you can tell, there are no A, B, C, or D's to choose from. We're going to need to type in our answer all on our own. So let's figure out what we do with this expression. Now, everything here seems to be the same. We've got the same base of x. We only have one exponent we're dealing with, but you notice that we do actually have an x that we can enter. So we're going to need to be thinking of in terms of x there. So what do we have? Let's take our terms here, and I'm going to separate everything, okay? So I've got 2, and then I've got x to the 8th, okay? Now, I want to separate out the 3 and the x to the negative 1 and the squared, but I need to distribute out that squared, right? So it's going to end up being 3 squared, okay, and then x to the negative 1 squared, okay. So I distributed out this squared to both of those terms there, because what I want to do is I want to take my coefficients and I want to multiply them first. So 2 times 3 squared, okay. So 2 times 3 squared, that's going to end up being 2 times 9. Okay, so I've got 18. All right, so I can live with that. I've got 18 something. That's what I need to type in. Now, what do we do with these x's? Well, I've got an x to the 8th, and then I need to multiply that by this x to the negative 1 over 2. Okay, so what do I do with the x to the negative 1 over 2? Well, let's open up our reference materials, because that ends up being a power of a power. Look at the very top line there, power of a power. When we have the power of a power, what it means, power of a power, is we end up taking with like this a to the m, we end up taking that to the n power. You end up just multiplying the two, okay? Take the base and you multiply the two powers. So if I'm wanting to do that for this right here, then that's going to end up being x. Since it's that base, I'm going to multiply negative 1 times the 2. Okay? So that's going to end up being x to the negative 2. All right? Now, what do we do with our x? I've got my x to the 8th right there. So I've got my x to the 8th times x to the negative 2. So that's what that's going to end up being, x to the 8th times x to the negative 2. Well, what we do with that is, let me scroll up a little bit here, we see our product of powers, okay? So when the two are being multiplied, right, so the product of powers says that when you multiply the two, you get just the base, and you end up adding the two powers. Okay, so I'm going to get my ax, and I'm just going to add 8 plus negative 2, which is the same as 8 minus 2, right? So that's going to be x to the 6th. Okay, so it looks like that's what I've got, 18 x to the 6th. So let's bubble that in, or type that in. We're going to do our 18. Okay, then we need our x. And then we need to hit that little button right down there to get the exponent to the 6th. That's our answer.